This is Corolla Digital.
Hello, my little baby clams. It's me, Alison. Before the show officially starts, a few words. I need to tell you guys about something which happened to me, which was awful and horrible and disgusting, and I can't believe that it happened. And it's going to gross you out, and it involves my period, and I shouldn't talk about it. I know I shouldn't, because I was thinking about it. You don't hear people talking about their periods and dealing with it that much, and there must be a reason why. It's because it turns people off. So men, shut your ear holes. Ladies, listen up, because what the fuck? So anyway, I had to go to New York this weekend for work. It was very fast. I went on a Friday, came back on a Saturday, and the reason the meetings and stuff were on Saturday. And I had some time to kill in between that and when the car was going to pick me up to go to the airport. I had already checked out of the hotel. My suitcases and whatnot were being stashed at the hotel. And my sister lives there, so I met up with her and her husband, and we were getting a snack at let's say, a mall. Or at a center. And I had my period, and I've had my period now for, longer than I haven't. And I'd like to say I'm fairly on top of timing out, being in charge of it, like a person who doesn't mess their underwear up and whatnot. So anyway, but somehow I lost control. And so we're sitting there, and I was I made sure we were close to a bathroom because I was having to make frequent trips to, So anyway, I stood up, took a step, and something was horribly wrong and horribly uncomfortably wet, and I was wearing stockings and heels, so I'm like there's a really uncomfortable sort of waddle, but trying not to move too much, squished my way to the bathroom, and I wanted to yell, "Get out of my way," to the people who were just slowly meandering and blocking me. Get there. Anyway, it was like a scene from Carrie. It was everywhere. And I did not have the luxury of going back to the hotel room to take a shower or anything. So I came out. I looked like I'd probably witnessed a murder. I said to my sister, we have to go. We have to go now. So she and I left, and then her husband handled the bill. And then I just stopped at Rite Aid, and I bought a whole bunch of those wipes, those pre-moistened wipes. And then we went back to the hotel where my bags were, and I had to go into the bathroom, and it was this was a 3-person job. Her husband had to stand outside to say that someone was inside the bath, because this is the bathroom in the lobby. And so I just had to clean myself up and then change. But here's the thing. I know that these kind of awful situations happen more often than people let on. Why are we not talking about it? Or am I the only person who this happens to? And by the way, just since I'm getting into it to this degree, I'll tell you, I fucking hate sanitary napkins. I find them super uncomfortable, and they just make me angry. But I was so crestfallen and defeated by this experience that I wore what felt like a diaper to the airport. I was in the worst mood ever because I had been through hell. I had been through menstrual hell. Anyway, so my question to you guys is, are you still listening? Are you feeling like your ears just got raped with my story? Why is it such a thing that we don't talk about? And ladies, does this ever happen to you? Because I just feel like this shouldn't be happening to me. I feel like I should be much more on top of this, but I don't know. It was just one of those days. Okay, moving on. Sorry about that, Gary. I believe we have some iTunes comments of the week.
Alison wants your iTunes comments. Alison wants them, yes she does. Please leave her some iTunes comments, and don't forget to click 5 stars.
Our first iTunes comment of the week comes
Wait,
from
hang
Nicole.
on. Let's talk about it for a second.
Let's not.
We can cut it out. If it's the kind of thing that we can talk. Let's talk about whether we should cut it out, even though I know I'm going to leave it in. I think. How on a scale of 0 to 10, how horrified are you right now? And here's the thing: if it weren't blood, if it were ducklings, would we all be so disgusted?
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, iTunes comment, please, unless you want to say something else.
Our first iTunes comment of the week comes from Nicole Mahan, and it is entitled "Finally" with 3 exclamation points. So I guess that'd be finally. A smart, funny, quick, and clever woman of my generation. You ask what I'm wondering of your guests and are willing to be very open about your life. Thank you for being so
Gary
prepared
would say.
and bringing such passion to your show. Love, your new best friend, Nicole.
Well, I love you, Nicole.
And our second iTunes comment of the week comes from Jeremy Timmons, and it is titled "Heart." I listen to a ton of podcasts, and this is only the second iTunes comment I've ever left. Your on-air personality is endearing, sweet, hilarious, and smart. Your interview style makes for a really great listen. No boring spots. This is a podcast I don't get tired of.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I just want to know, is your opinion going to be different after this show? And then I stand on the side of that and I say, but why should it be like this is such a huge... It's not like I just dropped a bombshell. I'm just saying, hey, I'm a woman who can't control what happens in her underwear. Anyway, you guys, mypc.com, click on the Try It Free button and enter the promo code Allison. Then download the free app to your iPad or iPhone. Let's go to mypc.com, try it free, promo code Allison. All right. This right here is my interview with Maria Menounos. And fun fact, I love Maria Menounos, by the way. That's not the fun fact. That just goes without saying. But the fun fact is I found out this was her first long-form sit-down interview. So take that. All the other people that will be lining up wanting to long-form. Well, actually, I'm sure that people have been wanting to interview her long-form. It's just that, well, this is what I'm going to say. What I think is that she was like, you, Allison, you're willing to talk about things that are absolutely disgusting. I want to give this interview to you. So thank you. We love Maria, and she is really nice. And she's so pretty, too. I sound like a girl who has a crush on a girl. Anyway, here's the interview, and you can download part 2 early Thursday morning. So write it on your hand. And I love you guys.
Alison Rosen is your new best friend. Alison, with her good times never end. Alison Rosen, doing the wavy pencil dance again. Alison Rosen, Alison's your new best friend.
Hey everyone, hi, hello, it is me, Alison Rosen, your new best friend. Welcome to another episode of Alison Rosen is your new best friend. My guest today is Maria Menounos. You're beautiful and you smell really good.
I do.
What is that?
Thanks. I think this one is like a Donna Karan perfume.
You don't have a signature scent?
No, because
You like to change it up.
I have a problem. Like, perfumes don't last on me. Mm-hmm. And so I keep one in my trailer. I keep one at home. In the morning, I start off with Marc Jacobs Daisy. Love it. And then for some reason, I also loved this Donna Karan one, so I kept it in my trailer. I also have Heidi Klum in my trailer. So I just switch around to whatever I'm kind of feeling like in the moment and just hope it lasts for more than an hour.
Right. Well, it smells good.
I'm impressed. You just made my day because I work very hard for it to try to like.
Right. So before we started, we were talking a little bit about whether you check your phone in the middle of the night and like your work habits, because you wrote Every Girl's Guide to Life. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Which is like a sort of how to maximize your time and be effective in a motivational book, and your story. Mm-hmm. And I read it, and it's filled with info that is really smart, and yet it's like, ugh, that's what I figured you have to do to be successful. Like, really, it's just hard. It's like hard work and being disciplined.
Yeah.
And I want the shortcuts.
I know. And you know what? Shortcuts aren't really the best way to do it, because shortcuts are just going to give you just that. And so it's a little more annoying to have to do it the right way. But yeah.
But see, my sense of you is that you're someone who's very organized and wakes up early and works really hard. So like, what time do you get up?
I wake up generally about 6:15 the latest. But that's because I have to. If I didn't have to wake up, I would love to sleep a little longer, but I can't sleep past like 8 o'clock, 8:30, even if I tried.
I don't have that problem.
Yeah.
I can. Yeah.
But I also grew up having to wake up really early to go to work since I was really, really little. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's one of those things where it's just been kind of ingrained in me.
So do you set an alarm to get up at that time?
I do, but I generally will wake up a minute before, and I'll look at the clock in my bedroom, and I'll be like, oh, 1 more minute. And then I go back to sleep.
Yes, that actually just came up. I was saying that even if I wake up and I have to pee really bad, if I have 5 more minutes till my alarm goes off, I will stay in bed uncomfortably with my legs crossed because I demand those minutes.
I demand. Yeah. Trust me, I demand every second I can get.
Well, so then what? How does your day go?
Like, here's the thing. I know people that will wake up earlier than that because I have to get in the hair and makeup chair. So for me, it's like I got to get up, I get a shower, whatever. I know people that will get up and work out and then do that. And I'm like, hell no, that's not happening. And I'm like super efficient and I'm like all about like maximizing your time. But I'm like, I'm not going to be a slave like for this. It's just not going to happen. So if I have time in my day to do it, great. If I don't, I'm not working out. That's cool.
I feel like in your book, you are working out all the time.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I do what I can when I can. And then I try to incorporate it into my day. You know, I mean, I'm always running around. I actually have to get my pedometer on again. I'm going to do that tomorrow, actually. You just reminded me because I have a theory that I'm so active during my day because I'm constantly running around that I get enough of a workout in
Oh, that's
that way.
good. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I have a Fitbit, which is a pedometer. And yeah, there's certain days where I feel really good. And then there's certain days where I look at it and I'm like, so I basically walked to my car and then back. And that's about it. And yeah, maybe I had it in my coat, and so it went up and down. Like if I put my coat down, and so it thinks I climbed the stairs. But
well,
I
and
didn't.
for people who are, you know, sitting for most of their day working, you have to have a pedometer, I think, now because you have to kind of see, gosh, you know, I need to go for a walk tonight or do something because, you know,
right,
it's hard. It's hard to get it in.
So I was saying that I make the mistake of checking my phone in the middle of the night, and so I am like, I don't react rationally to things that I read in the middle of the night. And you were saying that you're really disciplined and you don't do that because if something upsets you, it will make it so you can't go back to sleep. What's the kind of thing that would upset you?
Oh my gosh, who knows? I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example, but I definitely have seen things and I'm like, I wish I didn't read this until I had to wake up. Because now I feel like I have to respond, or, you know, if it's like someone's like, no, we need this, this, and this. And I'm like, no, I actually sent you this, this, and this 3 hours ago when I was awake, and no, I don't want to deal with it now, or whatever it is.
Right.
I don't know.
It's like dealing with work emails and logistical things, that kind of stuff.
Just dealing with stuff that you're not supposed to be dealing with when your eyes are closed.
Yeah.
Like, my eyes closed when I go to bed. My phone is next to me, yes. I don't do breaking news like I used to for the Today Show, so I don't have to worry about them calling me in the middle of the night and sending me to, like, Guam or something. So I don't have that kind of anxiety like I used to. I used to have my phone outside of my shower. Like, there was never a second I wasn't able to, you know, be
Did
reached.
they ask you to be that available? Or is
no,
that
you knew you had to be. You just knew. So now it's like when I go to sleep, my phone's off. I don't check it until I have to wake up. And then when I wake up, the way I wake up is I start reading like the news of the day. And I'm like, oh, and then I kind of like wipe the sleepies away and I'm like, okay, let's go.
So now you have done really hard journalism reporting, though, hard news, and then you also do pop culture stuff. Do you do any hard news anymore?
I haven't done it in the last year, except for, you know, there have been moments like at Extra that I've gotten to cover some important things like Hurricane Sandy, for example. I wanted to make sure I was there to cover that. I had a feeling it wasn't going to be, you know, I had a feeling it was going to be a big storm. And so I flew out there earlier than I was supposed to, and I covered it. And so that was exciting for me because, you know, it's what I love to do. And so I was out in the middle of the storm and, you know, went to Staten Island and covered the entire thing from top to bottom. And I loved it. And I missed it. So I'm definitely starting to get the itch again to do it on some level.
That's what I was going to ask. Which do you prefer, and what's the difference in covering the two?
Well, it's not, I prefer kind of having a full plate of getting to do everything. And that's always how I've been and always how I've tried to continue to be, because I know myself and I know I miss things when I don't have it. So with news, with hard news, I feel like you're making a difference. I feel like I'm delivering something of importance to people that's helping them, whether it's educating them, making them aware, or with Hurricane Sandy, for example, we were able to put together a relief plan with Extra that got tons of food and clothing and all kinds of things donated for these people. And I've seen that countless times with stories that I've done between Nightly News and the Today Show where people donated. I remember reading after I covered the fires in Greece, this woman donated $1 million because she said she saw my news coverage. And
Wow.
it made me feel so incredible because that's why I love doing it. I love helping
To
people.
reach millionaires?
To reach millionaires, exactly. That too. But I love helping people, and I love telling people stories, and I'm inspired by that. So for me, I think that's what the news kind of does for me. And you're going to all these different places, and
Is that fun?
yeah, it is.
Or are you ever like, I don't want to go to Guam or whatever it is?
No.
You're always, that's exhilarating.
I love chasing the fire trucks. Like I love being in the middle of everything. I love being scared.
I was going to ask, have you ever been somewhere where you've been afraid for your life?
Oh, many times. Many times. I was in Afghanistan. I remember being in El Salvador during a huge earthquake had just rocked this area, and I flew into it. And they sent me because I was the only one on staff that knew how to speak Spanish. And at the time, I was pretty fluent. I've lost most of it, and now I'm trying to Rosetta Stone my way back. So I went, and, this entire area was just wiped out by a water pump or a water tower that had wiped out this. And we were, like, trying to dig out people's families, and it was absolutely heinous. I went back to the hotel that night, and the aftershocks were so strong that I kept all my clothes, my boots on, my license on my body because I was scared. The hotel was shattered. I mean, you couldn't even take a shower. The tiles were all on the floor. And I remember calling my mom, and I was like, I'm definitely kind of nervous. This is not really, and I was 22 at the time. Like I just kind of started, and I was still new to all of this. But I love that kind of energy. I love,
Right. And then conversely, what's covering the more poppy entertainment-y stuff like?
That's fun. To me, it's fun. It fulfills that other side of me that just, wants to be silly and have a good time and, talk to stars about, La La Land. You get the inside scoop on everything and how it's done. And, I love making movies. I love, the entertainment business. So for me, it's just another part of me that I enjoy. But if I had to do just that all the time, I would probably go nuts because I need a little more stimulation.
Do you feel like celebrity journalism has changed since you've been doing it? And I'll explain what I mean. I was a print journalist for years, and I remember reading this article that always stuck with me by this guy. I think it was I forget. His name's Tad Friend, and it was about how celebrity profiles nowadays, this is years ago, it's like always the celebrity and what they were eating, and then interpretations on what that means about them. And like the reason that is because nowadays, again, this was years ago, the access was so limited. So it's like the publicist will give you the star for half an hour, 45 minutes, and all you have to draw on is your experience with them versus years before when it's like you had 3 days to spend with them, so then you could write a cover story that really delved into who they are versus feeling like the publicists are kind of controlling your access. And I'm wondering, you, with interviewing celebrities, do you feel like you have a lot of freedom to talk about whatever you want? Do you feel
No, because for an entertainment program like Extra, you have such limited time that you're really, really confined as far as what you can talk about because you have to just talk about what the audience wants. And the audience wants what they ate. And I want to talk about like that scene and how they got it and, what were they channeling and all this stuff. And that's never going to make it on that. But you have to understand, like, there are places for that. And then there are places for the things that we do. And so, you can't have it all.
How do you know that that's what the audience? I'm not disagreeing, but I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Like, how do you have that sense that that's what they want?
Well, you know your audience from all the research that they do and the different studies that they do. And then, you know, you also know by just the temperature of what's going on out there. You see, like, when I first started in this business, it was People Magazine and Us, right? Mm-hmm. And then Paris Hilton, I actually just wrote a novel about this. So
oh, wow.
It's kind of funny. But then, you know, so Paris and I kind of started together at the same time. And right at that point, she ushered in all of this, the Life and Styles, the In Touches, the Celebrity Weeklies, and all of this, you know, kind of fascination with celebrity on a whole other level. You know, that now there are so many magazines dedicated to all of this. And so it's kind of interesting to me, but you know, you see what people want from what they're buying, and they're buying these magazines and they love it.
Yeah.
And it's like they're buying all of them, and they're all, you know, they're all putting out similar content.
That's interesting. I remember I wrote for People years ago, and I remember meeting with an editor, and he said your audience is, and like they had it nailed down to like the 35-year-old woman who works in an office who sits down and reads it before she starts work, or something like that, or I forget it specifically.
Or the flight attendant who's on the plane, just kind of killing some time.
But even you know, when I sit down for a doctor's appointment, that's when I'll flip through one of those magazines. But that's so interesting that you tie it to Paris Hilton. Mm-hmm. I hadn't thought about it in that way, but I remember I remember when I was first aware of her, and I just knew the name, but I didn't know who it was. This was before the sex tape, I think. And then, I just kept reading her. Well, at that point, it was Paris and her sister who were always mentioned. Mm-hmm. But
and then from there, it was, you know, Kim Kardashian and Brittany Murphy and Nicole Richie and even the Johnson and Johnson heiress, like all of those girls were all in this, like, you know, in this kind of group, and it's so funny to see how it all kind of started.
Mm-hmm. So, what's your feeling about that? Do you have a judgment about that?
No, I just think I always say it's just, you know, it is what it is. I think that, you know, a lot of people will criticize and say they're just famous for being famous. And I'm like, well, that's a really easy way to put it. But you know what? They had to do something to capture your curiosity and to capture people's attention. You know, whether you like the Kardashians or not, people are watching them. They're obsessed with them. And there's a fascination. And to me, I think they're doing a job. I think that they are successful for a different kind of thing. Like, remember, like, supermodels used to be on the covers of magazines, right? Whether it was Helena Christensen or Cindy Crawford. Well, you know what? At some
Linda
point,
Evangelista.
yeah, exactly. And then at some point, they were gone.
Yeah.
And they were replaced by what? Actresses. Well, don't you think people were like, oh, bring back the supermodels. That's who's supposed to be on the cover. It's the same thing. Like, things evolve and things change. And now television has changed. And so, you know, I don't think that I wouldn't be so quick to just judge and say, you know, they're just famous for being famous, because they have to have something. I
totally agree with you about the Kardashians, and you don't hear people saying this very often. So you and I are kind of on the vanguard, but I have defended, because I hear people take down the Kardashians all the time, and I actually defended them to my boyfriend, because I was saying that is a job.
Yeah.
It's not. They don't just live their life. I mean, that's what we're supposed to think. We're supposed to think that we're just watching them how they live their life. But like, hell no. I'm sure the hours they work doing that show,
grueling.
So difficult.
Yep.
And yeah.
You have to be okay with everything just hanging out, because if you want a successful show, you've got to let it all hang out. And you know what? They have to take the good with the bad. I see that, girl. And you know, I'm so excited to hear that you actually defend them, because I defend them constantly. I'll be having dinners with people and they'll shit talk them all the time. I love that we're on podcasts and I can say that.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating. And I had dinner with Kris Jenner like 2 weeks ago, and I told her, I said, you know, I find myself having to be like, you know, your advocate out there, because people don't see the other side. They don't see that you guys are working for it. I see Kim. Well, I'll go interview her.
Well, they buy into the illusion that's presented, which is you're just looking through a window into their real life. Whereas you and I are more aware of what it means to be presenting yourself constantly.
Yeah,
So.
and you can't stop. Here's the thing. Now imagine them right now if they took a break. You don't know what's going to happen, do you? You don't know if people are going to still...
Yeah,
someone
no.
else might move into that slot. So you have to keep on that rat race. You have to keep on keeping on, and it's so hard. But like I said, I remember one day I had to go interview Kim at her house, and she had just flown in from like a 15-city tour overseas. I don't care that she was on a private jet. It's still flying all over the place, exhausting. And the reason you have a private jet is because the hours are so insane you couldn't get on a normal flight.
Yeah.
That's how it is for most people. She landed at 5 a.m. By 9 a.m., she was shooting a video game for this video. She was doing some appearance for a video game thing. Then she had my interview. And you know what? That girl had a smile on her face. She was positive. I know that she's very supportive of so many people in this town. Like, she's always going to events, and she knows that it helps people. She would come to my events, and I hadn't even asked her. And she was just being a good girl, like a girl's girl.
Right.
They work really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's work. It's just a different kind of work. And people don't want to accept that. They're like, oh.
Well, they don't want to think that a reality show is putting on a show.
Yeah.
I think they don't want to think that. But it's like if the Kardashians were doing scripted material, people wouldn't have the same problem with them. And yet I mean, I haven't shot a reality show, but I think it is just as much work.
It is.
But you're doing a reality show, right?
We're going to be, yeah.
What's that going to be like?
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I remember I sat with Chris, and she was telling me, she goes, just let it all hang out. Whatever it is, just live it, own it. And I'm like, that's so scary.
Yeah.
You know, who wants to be attacked constantly and criticized? I mean, it's so hard. But, you know, for me, I actually see the benefits of what they get to do. I see that they get to work together and be a family together and enjoy more time with each other than they would if they weren't doing it. And I love that. I love my parents. We have so much fun together. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
It's going to focus on your family?
Yeah. My parents live with us most of the year. And, you know, we have an eclectic group of friends, and you know, it's going to, you know, revolve around the family unit at home, and obviously like following me at work and what it's like behind the scenes at work, which is great. So, yeah, we'll get a little taste of it, I guess.
When does that start shooting?
I'm not sure yet. I'm about to find out because the holidays kind of throw it off. We finally found a showrunner, which is so hard to find. Because you can meet so many great people, and then you're like, oh, but this area may not be the best. They may not be the best at this, at that. And so it's hard.
Is it attached to a network?
Yeah, Oxygen.
Oh, cool. How did that come about? Like, is that something that you guys pitched, or is that?
Yeah, we've been approached for a long time, actually, about doing it. And so, we'd always kind of resisted, and then we connected with Ken Druckerman and Left Right as a company, and we're like, you know what? These are the guys that we would do it with if we're going to do it. And so, yeah.
Are you a producer as well?
Yeah.
On it. So do you have some control over what goes out there?
I don't know yet officially. Here's the thing. I think that what I've figured out is that they don't necessarily want something to go out that you're really going to like flip your lid over. But at the same time, if you're going to flip your lid over it, it's probably really good.
I know. I hate that.
And that's the thing, is like, you don't want to edit your stuff. And so I'm pretty good about stepping outside of myself in situations. Like, I remember, oh my God, I was doing a shoot, and it was a super emotional moment, and they had a green, field producer with me. And a doctor was like delivering some really devastating news to me, and I'm sitting there sobbing. And then all of a sudden I look and they're not rolling. I'm like, of course they're not freaking rolling right now. This is like such a great moment. And I'm like, no, you're a person. Be a person. And I'm like, no, but I'm a producer. But I'm a person. I had the battle, and I could have said something, but I didn't. But I'm good enough to be aware to know, oh no, this is good. Even though this is horrible for me and I'm gonna like die, this could be good for this. So I'll just swallow it for the greater good. So hopefully I can do that. I'm sure there'll be times it'll be really challenging and difficult, and that's where you have to kind of lean on each other to
Is
figure it
that
out.
the moment you're talking about? Is that something that you shot for the show?
No. This was something for, I was shooting for another show. Ended up not being true, so it was fine. I had a doctor who told me I couldn't have kids.
Oh,
and then
geez.
I was like devastated. And then I kind of figured out, I was like, you know what? I don't think this is true.
Why did the doctor think you couldn't have kids?
Well, birth control is really interesting. I had been on it for so many years, and it suppressed my system so much that we were trying to do a round of, what's it called? I was going to freeze my eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing was growing. And I was like injecting myself with all this stuff, and it was such a nightmare to do. And nothing was growing. And so the doctor,
you weren't producing eggs.
I wasn't producing any eggs. I had no follicles, no nothing. It was like my system was dead. And so the doctor did these tests, and she's like, I'm so sorry to tell you. She's like, but even with multiple rounds of IVF, I don't think you'll be able to have kids.
Jeez.
And so I was like, oh my God, this is so not happening to me right now.
How old were you at the time?
This was a year, not even a year ago.
Okay.
And, it was a little over a year ago now. And so I remember leaving and just being like, this is not my body. I know my body. This is not my body. I know I'm going to be fine. And so I did a little acupuncture, and I just said, you know what, let's just let my body calm down for a little while. And what I realized is sometimes with certain people, the pill can just suppress your system so much that it's like literally it appears to be dead. Mm-hmm. But if you just give it some time, it will come back. And so I remember I went back to the doctor. I'm like, I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but I feel some stuff going on down there. And I don't know what it is, but you're going to tell me I'm nuts or that I have an alien in there. I don't know. And so I went back, and she was like celebrating. She goes, oh my God, you're normal. You're normal. And I'm like, see, I told you.
Good. So did you end up freezing your eggs?
I didn't, but I think I'm going to again. I think I'm going to start it again because I don't know when I really want to have kids, but I know I want to, and I'm like nervous, and I'm more torn than ever. And Kevin now is like switching his mind around. He's like, oh, I kind of want a little rugrat and blah, blah, blah.
Did he, for people who don't know, Kevin is your boyfriend, and you guys have been together for how long?
It'll be 15 years in April.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you going to get married?
Yeah, I think so, eventually. When we're 92.
Right. When you're really sure.
Yeah.
So he thought he didn't want kids? Is that that's what
No,
it
he
sounds like?
does, but he was like, we're so busy. He's like, not now. And I'm like, I'm right there with you. So we're like fish. We flip and flop. We flip and flop on the marriage thing. Oh, let's get married now. I don't want to get married now. Let's have kids. Let's not. So we're kind of all over the board, and we don't know what the hell to do, which would be on the show. But then just in this last week, he's like, oh. And we were at Disney World with my friend's kids, and he's like, oh, I would want a little Sarah. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, but wait, I don't even have time to tie my shoes. I don't know how we're going to do all of this. And I know people are like, oh, you get help. But I'm very involved, and I'm very like in charge of everything. I can't imagine not.
Do you mean like in a control freak way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's okay to say. I'm a workaholic and a control freak. So I can't imagine that I could just give my kid to somebody and then not be involved in the level of like, you have to be involved. Like, yes, they can take care of them in the moment while you're working. But when it comes to school and disciplining and all these things, like, you have to be involved. And there are a lot of major decisions that have to go on. And I'm like, I don't know if I have the time for this right now.
No, see, do you have the fear that I have, which is that if you have a kid, see, I know that I want to have kids, but I always had it in my head that like I want to get to a certain point in my career before I do that. But the older I get, the more I'm like, I need to change how I'm thinking about this because I will hit a point where it's going to be difficult to get pregnant. So if I'm not there already, so then I think, okay, well, I'll just sort of shuffle things around. But when I have a kid, if I do, I'm afraid that I'm just going to lose my ambition for my career for a while. And I know at the time I won't experience that as a loss because whatever you're focused on, that's what you're focused on.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. But I'm afraid of it now.
Yes.
Because it's like, how am I going to be excited about going on some audition or meeting or whatever when I have this thing that I'm in love with right there that my whole body and being is telling me to focus on?
Yep.
So what do we do?
Okay, how old are you?
I am 37.
I'm 34, turning 35 in June. Okay, so I 110% 1,000 billion% agree and understand exactly what you're saying.
Thank you.
It's totally not the popular thing to say.
No.
Nobody likes to say it. Nobody likes to hear it, but it's true. And I think the same thing. I'm like, I always used to say, I'm like, okay, when I have my own talk show.
Yes.
When I get there and I have my own talk show, then I'm on a set for like 20 hours a day. I'm not moving. I'm going to be there. And then the baby could be there. And like, then I'm where I wanted to be. Well, guess what? I don't know if I want that anymore, actually, because they're not really working. And so
Talk shows aren't working, you
my
mean?
Oprah fantasies are gone
I have the
because
same fantasy.
it just doesn't work. It doesn't seem to work. And
It doesn't work,
mean,
meaning those kind of shows are
Yeah,
not happening anymore.
yeah, and you know what's funny is like I'm not excited to watch them anymore. And if I'm not excited to watch them anymore, then I don't want to deliver them anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's like I'm thinking about like what that new model is and how it all kind of comes together. I don't know. But I thought the same thing. And then at the same time, I'm like, I know me. If I have one, I'm going to want to squish it all day long. I'm not going to want to work. And that's a huge problem. Like, a huge problem.
Well, but is it really? Because I think what it means is that you would just have to shift the way you define yourself.
Totally. And
Because-
we will because we're going to have no choice.
Right. But in my head, it was always like, oh, yeah, I see myself at the top of something or other. You know, like I definitely want. I mean, the talk show thing, actually what you're saying is making me think, God, maybe I need to give up on that dream. Because that's kind of my dream, always been my dream. But then sometimes I think, but what is it about that really appeals to me? Because I do have like this
Yeah,
podcast
you're
is a
doing
talk
it.
show, and I get so much out of it, and people like it. So why is it that I want to put this on TV? Is it because I want validation, or like what is driving that? And I don't know the answer to that. Mm-hmm. How uncomfortable right now.
I don't know either, but I don't know either. I think, and that's why I love new media. And that's why, you know, I love being able to do, you know, our podcast at AfterBuzz, because you have your own control. Like you're in charge of your own destiny in such a big way. And with your show, like you're doing it, you know, and guess what? You can talk about whatever you want. Mm-hmm. We're talking about egg freezing. A minute ago, we were talking about Thanksgiving dinner, and we have like 18 other things we're going to talk about. This is your talk show. And so it's funny. I've been recently kind of, like I said, been trying to think of what's that new model. Like, am I just going to do a talk show on, you know, out of my garage? And I'm totally happy with that, because if I'm able to talk about what I want to talk about and I'm able to get an audience, and you've got a great audience, what more do I really need? However,
Yeah, I'm with you on the however.
However, on the kid front, you know, I also have had conversations with other successful female friends of mine who are like, we have amazing lives. Why would we do this right now? It's really scary. Like I get to travel at, you know, at moment's notice and go have fun and, you know, do whatever I want, whenever I want. When you have kids, it's like you can't even get a manicure. Like
Yeah.
you just can't do anything. And Gary's sitting in there being like, oh, this is so boring.
Well, Gary had to go to Joann's Fabrics today, so he's done with lady stuff.
But it's true, and it's a conversation that isn't being, you know, it's not out there. People aren't really talking about it. And I remember even with the reality show, people were like, oh, you can't talk about that stuff.
About
It's
fertility and stuff
yes,
like that?
It's not relatable to women to be worried about having kids. You're supposed to want to have kids. Like, people tell me to have a kid for my career. They're like, it's going to help your career so much. And I'm like, I'm not supposed to have children for my career. That's
Right.
what psychos do.
Yes, yeah. Well, now, that's interesting that they say that. What do they mean? Because
then you
and I are
become-
both thinking of it
Yeah.
as something that could be
Bad.
that's gonna. I mean, because honestly, the truth is, as much as having it all is, yeah, sort of like I feel like ultimately you do choose. You do if you want to be a good parent. If you want to have your heart in what you do, you make a choice at some point. You can have it all, but I don't know if you can have it all at the same time. So yeah, to me, it's not like, oh, this would help my career. But so
Yeah.
how do people think it would help?
Oh my God, people say it all the time to me. They're like,
Because then you can be on The View or something.
well, because
Is that what it is?
because I think because there's such a huge mom market out there. Like everything's about being a mom, and you know, it's like the smokers club. Like if you smoke, you're totally in.
Yeah.
You're totally into certain clubs, and it's like, you know, on movie sets, like there's like the club that smokes, and then there are the nerds that don't. And I'm like always like the one who's left out. Like they're never going to invite me out that night or whatever. It's the same thing with moms. Like they have their own thing, and it's such a big business. And I think that people are always like, oh my God, it's so great for networking and whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, you weirdos.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have a kid for that reason.
That's
So
yeah.
I'm going to have a kid because I need a slave.
Right.
That's such a better reason.
And I'm going to have one because I want a friend.
That's what we say in the house. We're like, Kevin's like, oh, I want a little friend. He calls it a friend. And I'm like, and I want a little slave. And so I'm like the evil one in the house. I'm like, my kids are going to be my slaves. I'm going to make them work so hard because they're not going to grow up in this nice house and think that they got it made. I'm like, I'm going to make them cook and clean with toothbrushes all over the house. So
Poor kids.
Yep. They're going to hate me, which is another reason why I don't know if I want to have them.
I know.
Because I grew up tough. And so I'm like, these kids are going to come into this like really privileged world. And how do you raise kids? Like for example, the Rosenblums, Bruce Rosenblum over at Warner Brothers is, I'm friendly with them, and they have the nicest kids. And they grew up in a nice way. And I keep telling them, I go, when I have kids, you're going to teach me how to be a good parent, because I think that I'm going to have to be so strict and tough and like, make them wear hand-me-downs and all the things that I had to do to make sure that they don't come out spoiled little brats. And so I have this inner struggle, and my makeup artist looks at me because I like help with her daughters because she's a single mom. And when they call and they're like, I don't want to go to school, I have cramps. I'm like, you're going to school. I can hear you through the phone. I'm like the dad, basically. Mm-hmm. And she's like, your kids are going to hate you because you're going to be so tough. And I don't know the middle ground. So now I'm scared to have kids because I don't want to be a bad mom.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I see, and I want to be liked, so I worry that will rule my child rearing, because too much of that, too much in either direction.
It's true. There should be a parenting class. I swear I talk about it all the time, because I was telling my makeup artist today, I go, because we went to Disney World with the kids, I said, your problem with your kids is they know your number and they play it. I said, and you're so afraid of them not loving you, that you're so afraid to discipline them because you're afraid they're going to be mad at you. And I'm like, and they need to be mad. You need to make them mad.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't think it's fair to kids to emotionally need something from your kids, like validation. Like that's not
your job.
Kind to them. It's not giving them space to be kids.
But it's hard because I like to be liked too. So I can't imagine if my kids hated me, I'd be so miserable.
I know.
It's so hard. It's the worst job in the world.
Yeah. Well, so what were you like as a kid?
I was a really good kid. I really was. I was so,
you grew up in Massachusetts?
In Medford, Mass, yeah. My mom always says that I was like always smiling, always happy, and just, very obedient. I never disobeyed my parents.
How come?
So I was terrified. They would have totally hit me, and they did.
Really?
Oh, yeah, my parents hit us. Oh, yeah. I had the belt. We had the spoons, the wooden spoons.
Would it be like your punishment for this thing is this, or was it just in the heat of the moment?
In the heat of the moment. They were stressed. They were broke. I mean, all that stuff. They were working hard. My dad was sick. So it was like if we were fighting or whatever it was in the heat of the moment, yeah, they would, hit us. But then as we got older, it became like written punishments.
What does that mean?
Like I remember my brother got me to stick out my middle finger at a car behind us. So my mom saw me and she made me handwrite out 1,000 times, I will never stick up my middle finger up ever again.
Wow.
Guess what? I do it all the time now. So I totally lied. But yeah, she would make me do like handwritten, I won't fight with my brother ever again, things like that. Mm-hmm. So
Are you upset about the physical punishment?
No. Hi. No, I mean, I always, I think that, parents, my parents are great parents. They're great people. They just did the best they could. That's it. Mm-hmm. So
how did you get into performing or entertainment?
How did I get into it? I always say it's a series of baby steps and a series of just good decisions, because I never closed a door. I always ran through anything. And so I knew from the time I was 13 that I wanted to do this.
How? What made you want to do it?
I don't know. I was a dreamer, excuse me. And so I remember getting a card in the mail to enter a beauty pageant. And I was like begging my mom, and they would never let me. And so I asked my older cousin, I said, they love you, they respect you, they trust you. Will you kind of like step in and help me?
Well, it's smart you didn't end run.
Exactly. And so he talked to them. And so the next year I was able to do it, and I won. And so, and then a guy that my dad worked with knew Nikki Taylor's manager. She was a popular model. I'm sure you remember.
I totally do.
And so
I got Teen Magazine and 17, and she was on those, both of them, I think.
Yeah. And so he was her manager. So he did like a photo shoot with me, and like, so I started doing some modeling and things like that. And then, you know, little by little, whatever it was, I would get involved in. And then I met Kevin in Boston when he came back to make his movie. So I quit my job doing makeup at Chanel and went to work for him for free. And then someone who worked on the movie, one of Kevin's producers, called me from California. He's like, I'm a PA at this place called Channel 1 News. And he was like, you should submit a reel here, because I was at college at Emerson at the time studying journalism and film. And he was like, you should submit a reel. And I'm like, no. I'm like, I just want to be a producer. And I was totally done with like being on camera.
Why?
Because I loved producing so much. And I didn't realize at the time that I could do everything, because people were so, you know, closed-minded back then. And so I was like, no, I'm just going to see this film out. I'm just going to do this. And Kevin looked at me. He's like, are you crazy? He's like, no, you're supposed to be in front of the camera. You can do both. And I was like, okay. So I sent in the reel and got the job, moved out to California, and within like a year and a half or something was at Entertainment Tonight. And then from there.
Wow. That's really, how did that happen? Because that to me sounds fast.
Yeah. Well, I was working at Channel 1, and right off the bat, within a month of being there, I interviewed President Bush and went to Africa and did a series on the AIDS epidemic and got such incredible experience there. It was the greatest place ever.
I don't know. I'm trying to think if I realized that Channel 1 did that, like, weighty stuff. Maybe I did.
Yeah.
Lisa Ling was there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Were you there at the same time as her?
I took over when she left to do The View.
Oh, okay.
And so, so it was amazing. It was such a great place. And my friend Derek, who was one of the co-hosts there at the time, he had an agent at William Morris. And so he was like, oh, you should meet with my agent. I'm like, I didn't even know what an agent was. And I'm like, yes, I need an agent. And so I remember seeing from the window of my office, I would see the Paramount lot. And I used to dream about like being able to go on that lot. And I would see the Entertainment Tonight signs. And when I was in the Miss Teen USA pageant, I had told Bob Goen that someday I wanted to work with him at ET. Mm-hmm. And so I signed with this agent, and I started hitting some roadblocks at Channel 1, because it was like I would pitch stories, and the guy who was in charge would give this, you know, whatever I pitched to this other girl, and it was just frustrating. And so I was like, you know what, get me out of here. I'm like, I'm not able to grow here anymore. Mm-hmm. And so I said, let's see what else is out there for me. And he sent my tape over to ET. I went in and auditioned and got the job over at Entertainment Tonight to do ET and ET on MTV. And so suddenly I was now in the Paramount gates.
Yeah, that must have been really exciting.
It was amazing. Yeah.
And then how long were you there?
I had a 3-year deal there, but I didn't finish it out. I ended up leaving there and going to Access Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I was at Access for 6 years, and then just came to Extra about a little over a year ago.
Mm-hmm. And you and Kevin met how?
I met him in Boston when he came back to make his first feature. And so I started PAing on his movie. And then,
but tell me more.
Which now I famously say I slept with the director, and that's how I got my career. So my cousin Anthony was really good friends with Kevin. They went to high school together. They were older.
What's the age difference?
10 years.
Okay.
And so maybe 11 years. I think it's 11 years. And so Kevin grew up in Medford, but then ended up moving to this place called Winchester, which is next door. And so my cousin was from Winchester. And my cousin used to tell me, like, from the time I was 13, he's like, hey, you know, when you want to go to show business someday in Hollywood, I got a buddy out there. But he always had a buddy. There's always a buddy. And so I didn't believe him.
Did you have that accent as well at one point?
Hardcore.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
How'd you get rid of it? Or do you still have it?
I still have it when I'm tired or when I'm drunk. But it just went away. When I would, even on the school news at Emerson, the second the cameras would go on, my accent would go away because I felt like I had to be professional, and it was like a thing that just happened.
But do you, at that point, were you consciously speaking differently?
I don't know if I was consciously speaking differently, but I remember like I took it so seriously. I would like wear suits to like the school news.
When I used to do morning news in New York, I started wearing blazers.
Yeah.
At the beginning, I was wearing blazers, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you think that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the news director still talks about it to this day because like everyone else would come in their pajamas, and there I'd be with my like suit on that I went to Filene's basement and bought, and I was like, but I took it really seriously. So I think it was just I just transformed.
Yeah.
And so it would just. The second I'd be off camera, it would be back. And people were like so confused. And then little by little, it eventually just became my everyday thing. So
are there certain words that it's the most difficult to not have an accent on, or?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm pretty... You'll very rarely catch me with a Boston accent. The only times are if I'm tired or if I'm drunk.
Right. Okay. So I cut you off though. Your cousin had a buddy.
Oh yeah. So my cousin had a buddy, and when he was coming back to Boston to make his movie, he's like, "You should work on it." And I'm like, "Yeah." And so I met with Kevin, and I didn't know what making a movie, what that entailed because I was a journalism major at the time. But I remember I had a big yellow legal pad like that, and I was like, I had everything that I knew how to do. And I'm like, okay, these are my skills. Will these help in making a movie? And he laughed at me. He goes, free phones, free food, free. Yeah, you can be on the movie. You know how to do what we need. He goes, that's producing. I'm like, it is? And of course, I was instantly like crushing and obsessed. And
was he single at the time?
I don't remember. Yes, he was. I think. Yeah, he was. And so, but it didn't matter because nothing was happening then. It was just like
was he interested in you when he brought you onto the movie, or what? Or do you know?
We talk about this quite often, actually. So, he had just broken up with Carmen Electra or something. Like he was dating Carmen Electra.
Right, because he was the head writer on Singled Out, right?
Yeah. And so he had just come back to make his movie, and I remember being in his office was his like bedroom. He had a like makeshift. So we went in there with a bunch of producers, and he checked his voicemail. But that was the day where you could like hit play and everyone had to hear it. And it was Dennis Rodman and Carmen Electra pranking him, and I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. So I was 18. What did I know? I'm like, that's so cool. My first brush with celebrities. And so I remember being like, I was like, chubby and whatever. And I'm like, he doesn't know this, but he's the one. And I'm going to make him love me.
So how did you do it?
How did I do it? Well, let's see. He had me. Okay, so my best friend worked for United Airlines at the time. And so she would fly me back and forth to LA. So one time he was like, oh, do you want to come out and help me audition the actors? I'm like, yes. And so
you were an assistant? Is that
I was a PA.
Okay.
But I went out there and I started like helping with the auditions. And then I remember going out there again. And, that's when like he kind of was like, oh, because he was like, Maria, I didn't take you seriously because you were so young. He's like, and.
Now, were you still a little chubby at this point?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. And so, so that was it. And then, from then, like, on set, I was just working, but also like totally like in love.
Do you remember your first kiss with him? Like, do you remember when things actually became?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was like so sly. He was like, I remember I was in LA and he was like, oh, you don't have to sleep like upstairs or whatever. He's like, you can sleep here. And I'm like, no. And then I'm like, I had to give in. I couldn't help it. I couldn't control myself. So I finally gave in.
And then have you guys been together ever since? Did you date people before him?
I went on a few dates, yeah. But he was like my first real boyfriend.
Wow. See, if I had settled down with my first well, we wouldn't be together still. There's like no way. Like it took me so long to figure out what a healthy relationship is that I'm always kind of mystified by people who can just get it right the first time. What do you think that is?
I don't know. I think my cousin actually, I remember my cousin married her like high school sweetheart. They're still together and they're like such a great couple. I think that I was definitely, mature beyond my years and wise beyond my years, and I knew what I wanted. And he was just special. Like it's hard. Like I didn't have those experiences where I dated in high school. My parents wouldn't allow me to. And so I actually I feel like I got to see my friends kind of make the mistakes that I never had to make and go after the wrong people. Like I always say, if I dated the guys I wanted to date in high school, I don't even know where I would be right now because they're all in jail and they're all drug addicts. I mean, I don't know where, because I am not going to say I'm special and was like going to, be able to, weather those storms and be perfect. You just never know. I know that I was against all of that stuff, but at the same time, once you fall in love with somebody, you never know how you're going to change. And so I got to see people kind of make all those mistakes, I think, and I didn't because I wasn't allowed to. Thank God my parents were so strict. And so I kind of knew exactly what I wanted. And when I met Kevin, he was like so sweet. His dad had just died of cancer like a year and a half prior. And he was telling me about how he like took massage therapy classes to learn how to like, ease the pain for his dad, and, left MTV and like came and like took care of him. And I was like, what a great person. Like you already know who that person is, and he would take care of you through thick and thin. And, he had great morals and great character, and he was so smart and funny. And so that was it. I was like, you know what? Let's wrap it up.
See, that's great, because all those qualities you're describing are not the things that would have been attractive to everyone at a young age.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I don't know what I was looking for. Someone who was cute and funny and wasn't really available. That's what I was into.
Yeah.
I think someone who would like come on really strong and then disappear. I mean, not that I was aware that that's what I mean, actually, if someone said, what are you looking for? I would have listed all the good qualities, but I just know that I was drawn to people who were just, awful, and it ended up being really confusing, and that's kind of what I liked.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. Well, so now how come you guys haven't gotten married, though? And I say that as someone who I'm living with my boyfriend, and we're starting to talk, just very gently starting to talk marriage and all of that. But
how long have you been together?
About a year and a half.
Okay.
We've only been living together for a couple months.
How's that going?
It's going really well, actually.
Yeah?
It was, a little bit, Rocky's too strong. There were little things that were coming up at the beginning, but now it's like it's smoothing out, I would say. Not that it was ever rough, but there were just, just little things that come up. Because I had lived on my own for a while. And so now I was thinking just this morning that I was leaving, I was thinking I really like living with someone, because I was worried about giving up the independence and my own space and all of that, but I like being able to go home to a place that feels like a home. So, yeah.
And having someone there to tell your day to and watch TV with.
Yeah, it's just in general I'd say I'm smilier. Yeah. I still wake up kind of in a shitty mood, though, and I don't know what that is. I think that's just me. But there's part of me that is like the idea of planning a wedding, and like it feels like such a pain in the ass. And I thought that I was the person who always wanted the big wedding. My sister, who's younger than I am, got married like a year and a half ago, and maybe I don't know if maybe because she already did it, I feel like maybe I don't need to do it, or if I feel like, who am I kidding? Like I'm not some 22-year-old bride, or I don't know what it is, but like I'm not sure I need the big thing that I thought I did. But I just know that all of it, I'm like, I don't even know how I feel about all of that.
I know. You know what happens? I think as we get older, we get more confused.
Yes.
And that's why my dad keeps saying to me, he's like, Maria, you got to have kids now. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm getting smarter and smarter as I get older. And that's like, I joke to him and say that. But I think we second guess so much more, and we're too analytical and we're thinking way too much about things. And so, yeah, I find myself completely confused about most of those things, like marriage, kids, all of those big things. Because it's true. It's like, okay, well, when I was young and, all of that was important. Okay, great. Well, now my priorities have shifted, or I've changed a little bit, and
Right. It's like once you deviate from the path, then
Yes.
it's easy to second guess getting back on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have a question that I bet you get sometimes, which is, what's it like being in a relationship and being a woman and being a very successful, powerful, independent woman?
What's it like?
Yeah, how does that affect the relationship?
Well, I think it's a really tough thing for most people. I'm really lucky that Kevin is really secure. That's not something that I see often, and that's actually something I really am excited about with the reality show. Is I feel like he's such a good example for guys, because they're not used to being in the back seat. They're not used to being the at-home mom or any of those things. Not that Kevin doesn't work, but there have been times when he doesn't work, or his work is different. He's supporting me, or he's helping me start AfterBuzz or whatever. Guys aren't really comfortable in those ways, and they get very insecure, and it really weighs on relationships. So I see that. I'm so lucky that I don't have to deal with that, because we grew up together in a sense, and we've been a team for so long.
Right, so like your success is his success.
Exactly. And he's been instrumental in all of it. So he's so proud. Like he's more proud than like probably anyone, because he's had a hand in every moment of it. Mm-hmm. So
is he your manager?
Not officially, but
right.
I mean,
do you guys ever have strong differences of opinion about what your next step should be, or how you should handle something?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I think that, we'll disagree, and then, and sometimes we're totally not on the same page about things. Most of the time we are. The thing we argue most about is he's so much more aggressive, and I'm so like, I just want to be happy.
In terms of...
In terms of career, like he's like, if I was you, I'd be such a killer. I'd be like crazy. And I'm like, I am so happy. Like,
does he mean in terms of going after things?
Yeah, like
or?
There are people in our business that are just so super like
driven.
Ting.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're not. And he goes, and I don't know if that's the trade-off, and that's why you're not a crazy person. He goes, because those people are all crazy for the most part, and these are his words, everybody, not mine.
Yeah.
But he's like, they're all psychotic. He goes, but they want it so bad, and I'm like, I want it to a degree. I want my happiness, and I want to be a normal person. I don't want to be defined by all of this, because I'm not going to look like this forever. I'm not going to be this popular forever. Like, I want to be able to be at peace when all of that kind of goes away, because it's so hard when you start to age and your career starts to go away. Finding your identity at that point, if it's all based on this, is really hard. And I understand why people do crazy things. So, and I don't know, like, I love doing what I do, whatever it is at the time, whether it's AfterBuzz or if it's extra or news, whatever I'm doing, making movies. I love it, but I don't want to be consumed by it. And this is from someone who is working like 20 hours a day right now, but apparently Kevin thinks I could be doing more at times.
Yeah, I mean, is that what he's saying? Is he kind of riding you to
sometimes
want it a little more?
That's like where I'm saying, like, that's where we'll argue sometimes. Like, he'll be like, okay, you should be doing this. And I'm like, Kevin, when? When? Because I'm going to collapse. I'm tired.
Yeah.
And so he, his thing is he's so proud, and so like, if you don't get everything you're supposed to get out of this business, he's like, it'll be such a crime. He's like, because you're capable of so much, and like, these are his his things in his head, and I'm like, I'm totally happy.
Yeah, I know.
But you have to think of down the road. You can't think of just now. You have to think 10 years down the line, you still want to be working, so you have to be planting the seeds for all of that.
Right.
It's hard. It's a lot.
That becomes like a full-time job in itself. I think the same thing. Like there's this feeling in me that's like, if you want to have success in this industry, you have to create your own opportunities. You have to do this, and then I just like, it's exhausting thinking about it. So then I just watch TV.
Homeland?
Yes! Did we spoil Homeland? Tune in to part 2 early Thursday morning. And by tune in, I mean download. And find out. Spoiler alert, we did not. Which means if you haven't seen Homeland, it's safe to listen to. Plus a whole bunch of other stuff. I love you guys.
Hey, do you know about the Alison Rosen show? We had a good time, but now we gotta go. Thank you for choosing the Alison Rosen show. Alison Rosen is your new best friend. That's right. That's right. Those good times don't seem to end. That's right. That's right. Alison Rosen is your new best friend. Hey, do you know about the Alison Rosen show? We had a good time, but now it's time to go. Hope to see you next time for the Alison Rosen show. Yeah! Yeah, Alison Rosen is your new best friend.
This is Corolla Digital.